Greetings and welcome, brave citizens of our new world. I am Toronto's greatest supervillain and evil genius, Dr. Terawatt. This is our Lair 3.0, and today is day 18? I think? Yeah, day 18 of our VEDA challenge, VEDA, vlogging every day in April. It's getting hard to keep track of the teens, I've been very busy. There's literally off-camera a mountain of plasma weapons. Anyways, on to the questions. Are you a cat or a dog person? Definitely a dog person. So you and Big Mike, is the ship real? I'm going to get extra personal. What are you looking for in a romantic partner? Or are you too busy to date? I am currently in a thing. Right now, I'm in a relationship. People keep asking, what the frick? 2016 sucked. All my favorite celebrities died. Glad to see you finally home. Stay healthy. I'm trying, and thank you. Vampire Masquerade. What clan would you be in? Oh yeah, the White Wolf series, Vampire the Masquerade. I think I tried playing it once, and I think I was a Malkavian. I can't necessarily remember. It was like a parlor LARP though. It was like everybody would dress up as their characters and they would get together in sort of like a lounge or something, and then they would, you know, roleplay out scenes and whatnot. I thought that it was going to be a lot of fun, but what it turned into, unfortunately, at least in my limited experience, was a bunch of people sitting around talking about how great their characters were, which to me, at least, did not prove entertaining. Have you had any nightmares lately? Only all the time. Top 5 fight scene locations you would love to do battle at. Example, top of a train. Oh man, top of a train is definitely top of that list, because top of a train is one place that I would absolutely love to do battle. Falling out of a plane that is in the process of falling apart / exploding. In the midst of an active volcano. Space, definitely. I mean, space is always on the list somewhere. And an abandoned part of the city. That's always one of my favorite places. Doc, what's your opinion on teleportation tech? What seems most realistic? If you use teleportation, what would you go for? The style that basically kills people via molecular deconstruction. Reconstruction freaks me out, aka the sort used in Star Trek. Yeah, so far the teleportation tech that I have been implementing, at least with limited success, has been only possible with non-organic materials and non-living materials. Organics and living stuff tends to kind of get really mucked up, so if we do some kind of teleportation tech with people, then I would suggest portals, but the only portal, as I've said, I've managed to get functional is about the size of a toonie. On a personal note, do you get as frustrated as I do when we explain how a bunch of Earth-saving technology can be done now, but people just won't do it? All the time. What usually ends up happening is a lot of the Earth-saving technology is going to take money away from someone who has invested in obsolete technologies, and so they propagate misinformation and lies in order to turn the public away from the future. Which is just tragic, all things considered. So Doc, we've heard a lot of your evil laughter. I was wondering, do you have any real variants depending on the situation? Do you have one laugh when you make an evil discovery, another when gloating in front of a defeated hero, when you hear an evil joke, etc.? Oh yeah, no, I've got a couple. I've got like the quiet, low, sinister laugh. I've got that derisive laughter. And then of course there's the classic. Having variation can always be a lot of fun. Since you're leaving the death penalty around in your new world, is there any room for, maybe, an executioner who loves to do what he does a bit too well, coughing, asking for a friend? It's funny you should say that, because there's actually a couple of questions with regards to this. I was thinking about going with George Carlin's suggestion and bringing back the gladiatorial arena for people that have been sentenced to death and have gone through a period of time for repeal to see if there is any new evidence that could crop up. And then if there isn't, then you can throw those people in an arena with a bunch of other people who are on death row, and they can just fight it out for the entertainment of the masses. Because it worked for them back in the day. I feel like there's somewhere that's like deep down that people sort of need that in their lives. I don't know, it's just a thought. What kind of video game features or mechanics do you enjoy? Examples being open worlds, character creation, etc. Also, don't get too flustered by Dr. Apocalypse. He's a pulp villain. Just pat him on the head and tell him you'll put his evil scheme on the fridge. In terms of video game features, I like open world mechanics. Like, I really liked the way that Wind Waker worked out, and a lot of other MMO games that have that vast and expansive thing. Like Black Desert, for example, had this vast and expansive world that you could travel through, and you couldn't fast travel. And that was both a thing, in my opinion, that worked against and for it, because it worked against it in the sense that getting places was a bit of a chore, but it worked for it in the sense that it really lended itself to the immensity of the world. I know that the new Legend of Zelda game, Breath of the Wild, does this. It has fast travel points that are really spaced out, but it's like if you need to get this long distance from here to here, then you can use this because the terrain's not exactly conducive to travel in some places. But there's still a lot of travel in the game, getting from A to B. There's lots of things in the areas that you can interact with. It's not just, you know, a large forest with just trees. Like, there's animals, there's plants, there's rocks you can, like, look under and find stuff and do things in. Character creation is also one really big thing for me. I love games that allow you to customize and create your own character. And the more in-depth and intuitive and specific the system is, the better, in my opinion. I'm gonna bring up Black Desert again because I was really excited about playing that game. I was like, yeah, the mechanics look really cool, the different classes, they play very differently. You can get like a little house, you can customize the inside of your house. There's only so many houses and stuff within certain areas, like within certain towns, and the world is just massive, and there's no fast travel, so you, like, getting from one place to another actually takes a significant amount of time. And it's a little grind heavy, but whatever. And then the character creation, though, is what killed it for me, because the character creation was very specific, was very, very detailed, but it only allowed you to be certain things. Like, if you were a warrior class, you had to be a big burly dude. If you were a wizard class, you had to be a decrepit old man. There was no way to make your character look young, there was no way to play as a different sex. Which seemed really strange to me because the game was so expansive and so detailed. Why would it limit itself in such a fundamental and basic way? Near miss for me, that game. Near miss. Evil Lairs. Out of all the options out there for villains like us, what, in your opinion, is the best and worst choice for a secret lair? Castle, tower, hollowed out side of a volcano. Oh, I do love a hollowed out side of a volcano, but it always seems to go off at the worst times. Really, my favorite is also the least convenient, and that's a moon base. Just the scope, the ostentatiousness of living literally on the moon. So cool. Virus corrections. For those of us who are in need of corrective lenses or other types of corrective apparatus, wheelchairs, hearing aids, etc., would your virus cure us of such ailments, or would those born with the virus in them be the only ones to not ever require such help and thus four eyes continue to require glasses and such? Well, the Phoenix virus wasn't designed to cure any ailments. It was only designed to stop telomere degradation so that you could live young indefinitely. Other viruses could certainly be developed to do things like correct your vision or whatever else. That brings up a weird thing for me, because let's say I correct your vision using a virus, right? Now you carry that virus in your system, and when you go to have children, let's say, they're going to be carrying that corrective gene in their system, and I don't know how that's going to affect the structure of their eyes going forward. My first knee-jerk reaction would be to use cybernetics, but then the next generation would carry, you know, genes for bad eyes and stuff like that. Using synthetic biology could be a solution of getting rid of that kind of problem, but it always sort of carries with it that issue. Where do you draw that line, right? Just because some customers are getting on my nerves, can I put in a request? When you take over the world, can you put in a law that when a person is buying something that you need to be ID'd for, and they don't want to be ID'd, they have to pay an extra fee if the person asking for the ID really believes they're of legal age? One of the ideas that I toyed around with in my ideal world would be putting identifiers on people, either chips or DNA or something, so that you would be carrying around just like a small subdermal chip, and someone could just as easily, you could just wave your hand over top a thing and it would be like, oh, you're this person, you have this much money in your accounts. There wouldn't be different banks, there'd just be the bank where you kept your money. And if you went to go buy something, like say a soda, you just put your hand on the machine or put your hand up to the machine, not necessarily touch it, and it would, you know, say, sure, which soda do you want? And just push, you know, soda, hand up, and boom, it pops out. Gotta go buy something at the store, put the items down, wave your hand over it, and boom, it takes the money out of your account and off you go. It would also be really easy to track and identify people if they had those chips in. You are, of course, going to run into people who are going to attempt to do things like identity theft, or who are going to try to cut the chips out of themselves for whatever reason, because people don't like being tracked. And I'm one of those people that believes that, you know, if you're not up to anything suspicious, then you shouldn't care if someone knows where you are at all times. And not someone like your parents, someone like the government. Like the police, if you go missing, they could be like, oh yeah, beep, they're right here. This person that we're looking for. Or, oh, this store was robbed by a person, it was this person, it was John Doe 256, and they're right there. Crime would certainly change because there's always going to be crime, and identity theft would have to change because there's always going to be identity theft, but the point is to make it better. There's never going to be a system that you could implement that will make identity theft or theft in general just impossible. It just makes it more and more difficult. I don't know, I just like the idea of being able to track people better and catch criminals and save people easier. And also, I think it would just be super convenient. On the April 16th VEDA, you mentioned you were a fan of The Last Kingdom. Have you also watched the History Channel series Vikings? Yeah, History Channel. I've seen the first season, I think, of Vikings, and it was a good show. I mean, the guy that plays Ragnar Lothbrok, the main character, just always has this, like, stupid, like, grin on his face, like, all the time. No matter what's happening in every scene, the actor just always has this shit-eating grin on. That's really the only bad thing I have to say about the show. I thought it was actually a really cool show to watch. And I've got a really bad soft spot for really strong women, so... So let me ask you a question about this brave new world of yours. When you've killed all the bad guys, when everything is perfect and just and fair, and when you finally have it exactly the way you want it, what are you going to do with the people like you? The troublemakers? How are you going to protect your grand revolution from the next one? That's a very good point, and it's something that people have definitely brought to my attention more than once. And what I would like to do is have a government system in place that will listen to, within reason, the concerns of its people. So when people come forward and say, the system is corrupt, the system has fallen prey to greed and corporate corruption, and the focus of the system is no longer on the betterment of our species and on society, but now instead on the betterment of the few, just through money, which all they do is spend that money on making more money and stepping on more people. Like, I want there to be a system that would make revolution obsolete by listening to its people. And obviously there's always going to be people that aren't going to like the system in place, no matter how peaceful and no matter how good the system is going to be, no matter how prosperous the world I could bring. There's always going to be people that are going to complain and want everything to be torn down and for us to return to being cave people in caves with sticks and stones and, oh, fire's too much. Like, there's always going to be people that complain. So doing the best you can to listen to people's concerns and dealing with the concerns that are, at least in my opinion, legitimate, and sweeping aside the people that want to return us to a more archaic time. A shapeshifter is impersonating you and has told your chief security officer that you are the fake and claims that he is you. How do you prove that you are really you and defeat your doppelganger before your own henchmen shoot you? Here's the thing, if a shapeshifter can impersonate the way that I look, they cannot impersonate the way that I think or my technology. So I can either A, allow my chief security officer just to shoot us both and my armor will protect me, or B, just literally go into the other room and start working on something that there's no way a shapeshifter would be able to replicate. Okay, for this next question, I got like a pseudo wall of text from somebody that was really personal and a bit dark for the show, and I don't want to really show it up here or share it, but I do want to kind of give an answer. First and foremost, understand that I am not a psychiatrist, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychologist, I'm just here doing my best to help people out and to answer questions. When I lost my brother 3 years ago now, I was encouraged by a psychiatrist that I had been sent to seek out group therapy. He told me to go to a hospital, say that I was in trouble, and ask to be referred to a support group. And it was a great idea. At least it was for me. Now, I didn't end up going to get to a support group because I already had a support network of friends who were working with me to make sure that I was okay. Like, I had a support group already. But support groups at places like this exist to help outcasts and misfit toys like us find other people who don't necessarily fit in. They help us learn how to interact with each other and with society as a whole. They give us a sponsor, a partner to help us stay on track. Like, you help them, and they help you. And it can be a really fulfilling and super rewarding way to make friends and learn how to deal with people better. You don't necessarily need a referral, but, you know. Now, in Canada, in order for me to get to a psychiatrist who is paid for by our government, I would need to go to a family doctor and then have them give me a recommendation to so-and-so. If I didn't have a family doctor that could give me a recommendation to a psychiatrist, like basically book my first appointment, because I can't just go to them straight, I could have gone to the ER of a hospital, said that I am in need of help, and they would have recommended someone to me. They would have made that appointment for me, basically. Worst case scenario, you can always go to a psychiatric facility or to a hospital and say that you require to be put in for a 72-hour stay. That is a thing that we have in Ontario, at the very least, where they have to keep you for 72 hours and they have to assess you during that time. They take away your personal belongings, they put you in a room, and they feed you and they clothe you, and they just make sure that you're okay for that time, and then they send in somebody who sits down and talks with you over the next 3 days to just see what's going on, to make sure that you're alright, to see if you need medication, if you need further support and further help. I am not a huge fan of the psychiatric field. I have a tremendous amount of personal fears and biases with regards to psychiatric professionals in that whole area, but I do understand that there are people that really, really, really need that help, myself included. Dealing with very severe anxiety, mild depression, I have had to kind of bite the bullet and go see people like this to get help. And I would recommend that if you're in a situation where you need help, that these would be the people to ask. If you don't have a group of people that you can turn to, if there aren't humans that are with you who you can sort of talk with or lean on or make familiar with your demons to sort of share your time with, then therapy groups, support groups are really, really, really amazing. It's actually literally why they exist. I hope that helps. I know that it can be hard day to day for some of us more than others, and the only advice that I can really give, like, true to myself, is just keep fighting. Keep trying things. Stuff will work out. Dear Doc, do you have any questions you'd like to ask us? Actually, yeah. Last year, when I was doing VEDA, I asked you guys if you would still follow me if I decided to change my name and do a new channel and all this stuff, and you did. And I got a resounding positive response from all of you saying that, like, yeah, this was a really cool idea. This was definitely something that you'd support. And I'm glad. So this year, what I'm going to ask you guys is your opinion on where to take the Warfront, my usual show that I do. Should I keep it being called the Warfront? Should I change the name? What do you think I should talk about? Because I've done a lot of different iterations of it over time, and I haven't really been sure where to put it, like if I should talk about games, if I should talk about science, if I should talk about politics. Where I'm thinking, at least, the thing that comes to mind, like where I want to put the show, more or less, is I want to have just one topic each show that I talk about. There's other shows like Philip DeFranco that have like a wealth of different things that they discuss, and I don't really have the time or the resources to talk about multiple things at a time, but I would just like to focus on one thing per show. Just keep the show just, you know, bite-sized, easy to consume. And that would be if I could do socio-political stuff, like talk about the different things that are happening with legislation with regards to equal rights, the different scientific improvements in our society and how that affects us. So like a science and political show. So each episode would be talking about, like, oh, Scotland is now looking to run all of their power on renewable green sources by 2020, and almost their entire country is presently run on wind power. Like, what do you guys think about that? Have discussions in the comments area, stuff like that, you know? Like, being informative, stating my opinion as a supervillain, and then opening the floor for discussion with you guys. I would love to do that. I think that that would be cool. What do you guys want to see? What do you think about that? And that is, I think, where I'm going to call it for today. Thank you, everyone, for sending in your questions. It was really great, as always, having this dialogue with you. If you get a chance, leave some more comments and questions in the comment section down below. And until next time, my brave citizens, I am Toronto's greatest supervillain and evil genius, Dr. Terrawat. This is our Lair 3.0, and I will see you tomorrow on our next episode of VEDA. End of line.